your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News Weekend Edition.
Hello, I'm Naveen Day. Thanks for joining us for a look back at Alberta this week. 3 people were injured during a shooting at a parking lot at West Edmonton Mall on Monday night. Police locked down the entire shopping center for around 2 hours. Following the lockdown, police say they believe the shooting was a targeted incident. The 3 males who were shot were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries.
Police responded to a report of a shooting at West Edmonton Mall, and it was reported that 4 males left the mall and went to their vehicle when a second vehicle, a white-colored SUV, approached them and subsequently resulted in an exchange of gunfire. 2 of the males collapsed on the pavement with serious injuries, and the 2 others fled into the mall, one into the Wild West shooting range with gunshot wounds, while the other fled through the mall, and we do not believe that individual sustained any injuries. And at this time, the 4th male has not been located, nor have the occupants of the white SUV. That being said, we believe we've recovered the SUV that was involved in the shooting.
Edmonton police say the culprits knew the victims and have not confirmed if any arrests have been made. The investigation into the shooting continues. You may remember a woman by the name of Sheila Annette Lewis, who we did a long-form interview with last winter. She was in need of a life-saving organ donation due to a terminal illness, but Alberta Health Services removed her from a high-priority organ transplant waitlist because she refused to take the COVID-19 vaccine. Well, sadly, the Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms has now posted reports that Ms. Lewis has passed away. Prior to her death, Lewis challenged the constitutionality of the vaccine mandate for transplant candidates, but the Supreme Court said in June that it would not hear Lewis's case. The Alberta NDP is calling on the Auditor General to look into the provincial government's decision to cut ties with DynaLife. The group provides medical lab services for Albertans. Last week, Health Minister Adriana LaGrange said DynaLife would transfer all of its assets to Alberta Precision Laboratories by the end of the year. During a stop in Lethbridge during Whoop Up Days, Premier Daniel Smith was asked why this decision was made by her government.
They simply weren't living up to the terms of their agreement, which had performance expectations. And then when we attempted to find a way that we could go forward, that was their solution for us. And so that's what we're doing. We want to make sure everybody gets the diagnosis that they need, because you need the diagnosis in order to get the treatment. And we'll have a better explanation of the costs once we finish the process at the end of December.
David Shepherd, the Alberta NDP health critic, says this is a big mistake by the province and an investigation is needed.
It's fair to say that we're talking here about millions of dollars. And that doesn't even include all of the impacts to the healthcare system, as thousands of Albertans have had crucial tests delayed or been forced to go to an ER to get them done. It's the cost of having to recollect samples, run tests again, the worsening of conditions for Albertans who've been waiting for a crucial diagnosis to determine what treatment they need. That could be millions more in billings and treatment costs.
The decision to have DynaLife take over delivery of lab services in Alberta dates back to 2019 under former Premier Jason Kenney. But it wasn't until 2022 that it was formalized, and following a delay of 6 months, it fully came into effect. The Alberta government says it is investing $13.6 million into our province's technology and innovation sector. Minister Nate Glubish says the Ecosystem Development Partnerships Program will allow 19 partners to access tools and resources to help advance their concepts and prototypes for the marketplace. That includes some much-needed help for our healthcare system.
When we do that well, everybody in Alberta benefits. They benefit because we have a stronger, more resilient healthcare system. They benefit from it because they get better access to better care. They benefit from it because our specialists, who are overwhelmed with enormous need to be seen and to get their advice, we are able to make sure that those specialists can see more people.
Premier Daniel Smith said Alberta is the owner of the 4th largest reserves of oil and gas, and that's not going to change. Smith made the comments during a keynote address at an Energy Business Forum conference in Banff, hosted by the Canadian Energy Executive Association. During her address, Smith said that energy leadership will be the priority for the Alberta government.
The world needs Alberta to continue being a strong energy producer, especially in oil and gas. Our province has come under significant pressure to stop developing and using these resources, shutting down production based on misguided policy from our federal government. But we will never give in to that.
After the break, Alberta's Minister of Environment and Protected Areas weighs in on the province's pushback against the federal government's Net Zero 2035 plan. The United Conservative Party has been defending their decision to impose a 6-month moratorium on green energy producers such as wind and solar projects here in Alberta. The UCP has also been very vocal about the federal government's 2035 net zero emitting electricity goal. So to break it all down just a bit more, Jeanette Roche spoke with MLA for Calgary Shaw, Rebecca Schultz, who is also the Minister of Environment and Protected Areas, to discuss the plan.
We saw 75% of Canada's investments in renewables, they were in Alberta last year. And I mean, this speaks to that free market, entrepreneurial spirit that Alberta is known for. We just saw huge growth. But with that, there were also concerns raised. So concerns around how do we make sure that there's reliability in the grid so that we're not faced with blackouts, right, in the middle of winter. Making sure that people actually have access to power when we don't have renewables working, when the sun isn't shining, when the wind isn't blowing. So that was one concern. Some others were about liability and reclamation. So what happens at the end of life of wind and solar materials? So what does that look like? With the rapid growth, we had to take a look at setting some of those parameters. There's going to be, I think, 4 or 5 ministries involved in that work. This was something in my formal role, Minister of Municipal Affairs. This was one of the top things I heard at the rural municipalities last 2 conventions. And so this is something that needs to be addressed so that we have certainty moving forward. So it's a 6-7 month pause. It allows us to put all of the right parameters in place so that we can move forward.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so is that mostly what the reason was before for implementing that hold? Okay.
It was like, let's get it right. Let's make sure that we have reliability and affordability in our electricity grid, and then also deal with those concerns around liability and reclamation. But also there was concerns raised about, where are we putting these, right? Let's make sure that we have a way to address the concerns around setting up solar or wind on some of our prime irrigated agricultural land. How do we balance that? And so that was really the list of considerations that led to that decision. I think some clarity on this will allow us to provide more certainty as we move forward.
Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be investing in those projects in the future potentially, right?
Well, absolutely. Renewables are absolutely a part of our energy future and our electricity future. We've seen that huge growth. Like I said, I imagine we'll continue to see growth, but there's a couple of things that we had to address before we can move forward.
So with all the criticism it's coming under, how is the party sort of reacting to that, responding to that, to the fact? I think one of the biggest criticisms is that there was no consultation made with those in the energy sector. Is that true? And how's the party sort of reacting to that?
So I would say that this wasn't a surprise. Like I said, when I was in municipal affairs, serving as the minister there just before the election and leading up to the spring, this was one of the top issues that was raised at those conventions. And so we committed very publicly to bringing together a number of ministries to address these very issues. Again, it comes down to making sure that we have enough base load so that we have reliability in our grid, that people have access to power when and where they need it, that we can keep power bills affordable, and that also we're dealing with end of life, liability, reclamation, also impacts to biodiversity, right? Whether that be birds, bats, and other animals. That's also something that was raised. And so we committed a number of times over the previous number of months in response to people who were asking for us to do this work, including the Rural Municipalities Association of Alberta. And so they were quite supportive, recognizing that this is an issue that needs to be addressed. We have to put some parameters around what's happening in this area. We still want to see renewable growth, and I believe that we'll still see investments in renewables as we move forward.
So doesn't the 6-month halt also affect some people's livelihoods as well? How is the party sort of reacting to that part of it?
You know, I would say that for those projects that were already under development or already up and running, I mean, that will continue. This is a 6 to 7 month pause for projects that hadn't already been approved. So, you know, if you're looking for more details on that, I would say that the Minister of Affordability and Utilities, Nathan Neudorf, would be happy to answer your questions there. But this really will give us, ideally, more certainty as we move forward.
After the break, our team brings you stories from one of Southern Alberta's largest summer festivals, Whoop Up Days. Don't go away. Well, this week was a big deal here in Southern Alberta. Hundreds of residents lined the streets of Lethbridge Tuesday morning as the highly anticipated Whoop Up Days parade made its way through the city's downtown. BCN's Angela Stewart has more on one of Lethbridge's most popular parades.
It was all smiles and waves during the annual Whoop Up Days parade Tuesday, despite the rain. Starting at Park Place Mall, more than 100 floats rolled along the parade route, showcasing this year's theme of celebrating Canada's agriculture destination.
You will certainly see that sprinkled throughout the parade, but obviously agriculture is such an important piece of the economy here, and it's an important piece of all the businesses and community groups that live and work here every day.
With ties to Southern Alberta and Lethbridge and District Exhibition, leading the parade as marshal was singer-songwriter Corb Lund.
We're very thrilled to have him as part of our parade this year. He is always involved in some capacity with Whoop Up Days, but this year to showcase him a little bit, really in his hometown and his home fair, we're excited about it.
Past participants of the parade say they were thrilled to have returned for another year.
We love to support all the parades that we can get to within Southern Alberta, and we're proud to be here. Live long and prosper. Vulcan loves to support other communities.
Streetside, some spectators even witnessing the parade for the very first time.
What do you think so far?
It's pretty good, but I wish they'd throw more candy. Yeah.
You guys gonna go to Whoop Up Days?
Maybe. We don't know yet.
Until Saturday, Exhibition Park will be hosting the rest of the Whoop Up Days celebrations down on the grounds. For Bridge City News, I'm Angela Stewart.
The amazing colors and sounds of the powwow are back in Lethbridge for Whoop Up Days. The grand entry of the event showcased the regalia of Indigenous dancers on full display. Local dignitaries also stepped their way to the beat of the drums. Staff with the Blackfoot Confederacy told us a hefty chunk of change was up for grabs during the powwow this year.
$65,000 in prizes going up for the drum groups and the dancers. There's the adult, senior categories, the teen categories, junior categories. So right up to 7 years old, you'll be competing in the girls, the teens again, and there's all kinds of dancers from all over the territory, Blackfoot territory, as well as visitors coming in from the Cree territories from the west.
You know, variety is the spice of life, and that is no exception at Whoop Up Days. Rides and food trucks were opened up to guests with lots of options to choose from. A local business owner who had their food truck down at the grounds said this was their first year they have participated in the annual festival.
We're from the Crow's Nest Pass area, Pincher Creek, so it's really nice to be known in Lethbridge for our food as well, and being supported as well by all the locals, so it's really neat. It's good to see a lot of the vendors that I usually see too, because it's just a really cool community to be in, and their food is fabulous as well. So it's good to be here with everybody and see how their summer is going, and that we're all here together.
West Coast Amusements, meanwhile, has been partnering with Lethbridge for over 30 years, providing carnival rides for the fair. An official with the group says there were new additions to this year in terms of rides.
We brought a new thrill ride for the teenagers to spin out. We've got lots of the old favorites, the tilt-a-whirl, the Ferris wheel, the merry-go-round, spider. We've got the vertigo swing, goes up 110 feet in the air. The drop tower, the mega drop. There's only 2 of them in North America that are portable, that travel, that are that tall. And lots and lots of family rides.
The mythical dragon has lived in our imaginations for quite a long time. Of course, there are real reptiles that share a close similarity with the creatures. The Wildlife Festival Living Dragons exhibit showcased a wide variety of snakes and reptiles at Whoop Up Days this year. Staff with the Wildlife Festival told us what the exhibit features.
We have primarily snakes and lizards along with us today. It is a lot of animals that look or have history being part dragon. A lot of our lizards and bigger lizards that we have here look really, really cool, and a lot of our snakes just they're all tied into that whole time period and the look and the craziness of the mythical dragon, all of that stuff. We kind of just had an idea and went with it.
So here's a few facts you might not know. Rodeo is the only American sport that arose from a profession, ranching. It has also been an equestrian sport for more than 200 years, and it is one of the most difficult sports to get a perfect score. Why am I sharing rodeo facts with you? Well, it's a hint about where our adventures at Whoop Up Days took us. But first, a quick break. Welcome back. We continue our journey through Lethbridge's famous Whoop Up Days. And now it's time to check out what we saw at the rodeo. Over 3 days, world, Canadian, and Stampede champions faced off against each other to win some serious prize money. I caught up with the executive producer for Lethbridge Pro Rodeo, Keenan Vine. He says the stakes were so high this year, there was no shortage of action to see in the arena.
Tell us a little bit about Lethbridge Pro Rodeo and what all goes into making this happen.
Yeah, so Lethbridge Pro Rodeo is one of the top 10 largest pro rodeos on the circuit in Canada. So there's a lot going on. The top contestants from around North America and the world are coming to Lethbridge to compete. You know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday performances, of course, 7 p.m. performances here at the grandstand at Whoop Up Days, as well as the relay races. So our Indigenous relay racers go immediately after the rodeo. Essentially, it's all a 2-for-1 show. And they are some of the top teams in North America coming here to race it for the relay racing. And the action is just exciting for both the rodeo and the relay racing. It's unbelievable.
Now, I've seen some of this action already, and it looks kind of painful for some of these athletes. What's the incentive for them to do all this and possibly break some bones?
Yeah, so by being one of the top tour rodeos here in Canada, that means that the rodeo here at Lethbridge has really a lot of prize money added. Of course, that's the incentive for the contestants. They're all vying to try to qualify for the Canadian finals and the National Finals Rodeo, which they can earn points here at the Lethbridge Pro Rodeo. And in the relay racing, it's a $20,000 added purse. So it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest purse for relay racing in Canada. So it's a huge draw. We have teams coming up from Montana, Saskatchewan, Northern Alberta. So, you know, I mean, there's a lot of bumps and bruises, but it's worth it when they have that much money on the line.
So for people that have never really seen a rodeo before, what would you recommend that people should look out for or should watch for?
Well, of course, the crowd favorites are the bull riding, the saddle bronc riding, you know, the classic events of the rodeo. But, you know, here we start off the rodeo with the ladies barrel racing. It's fast-paced. It's a race. Everybody loves a horse race and, of course, the ladies event. And then we also started last year doing the ladies breakaway roping. So that's the only 2 events in the rodeo that are only women. And it's another great event to watch. So those are some of the events you're going to come out and see here when you're at the Whoop Up Days. And then, of course, cap it all off with the relay races.
And for the first time ever, the Blood Tribe and Ag Society held its rodeo finals on Tuesday and Wednesday at Whoop Up Days. According to organizers, the focus was to bring in that professional atmosphere and put on a top-notch rodeo with contestants. And we caught up with one of those contestants shortly after winning his steer wrestling competition.
Okay, how long have you been a steer wrestler?
I've been a steer wrestler for about 15 years now.
course. Okay, have you, I would imagine this wasn't the first time you've won.
Yeah.
It was?
No. It's not the first time.
How many have you won?
More than I can count.
Well, good for you. So how did you get into this?
I was fortunate enough to be brought up in a rodeo family, so yeah.
That's very fortunate. Where are you from? Where's your family from?
Standoff.
Okay, so you're right from here. So you're Southern Alberta, born and raised. That's amazing. And you guys have been rodeoing for pretty much your whole life.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What makes you so passionate about it? Why do you keep coming back for more and more?
What can I say? I just grown up into it, and I've always loved it since I was a kid, and and my dad did it, my grandpa did it, so I just fell in love with it right from the get-go, and brought my boy into it as well, and he loves it just as much too, so I'd like to keep that going.
Besides steer wrestling, are there other competitions that you enter into? Is that kind of your specialty?
Yeah, I get into the teamer open as well. Yeah. So, yeah, bulldogging and teamer open now.
Which one do you prefer?
It's hard to choose because I like doing the whole thing. It's all fun.
What did you win today? Was it a prize competition or what are the prizes?
There's a little bit of money, yeah. And then today was just a go-around win, so it felt pretty good to end the season off with this series like that. And my buddy Cash, he won the year end, so he won the buckle. So I'd like to congratulate him too on that.
Amazing. So you have a friend named Cash and your name is Win. I mean, that sounds like a winning combination right there.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding.
There were 80 participants in at least 10 categories. Don't forget, if you wish to see more of what we have to offer, you can watch all of our content by heading over to our website, bridgecitynews.ca. The website's at the bottom of your screen, or you can scan this QR code to get to our homepage. Well, we need to take a quick break, but when we return, we head over to a different festival in a different town. You know, two things come to mind when the town of Taber is mentioned. Taber Corn and the Taber Corn Fest, which kicked off this week. Floats and displays of all colors, shapes, and sizes were out to participate in the Taber Corn Fest parade. BCN's Micah Quinn has the details.
It was 48 years ago that Cornfest first started in the town of Taber, and now it's known as one of the largest family festivals in Western Canada. One of the biggest attractions for the event is the annual parade, which included some spooky sights as the folks from Creepy Hollow in Warner, Alberta came out for some hair-raising fun.
I remember this float has been the float for years and years and years, ever since I first started coming. We've only updated it a little bit here and there, but it's our little Halloween float with a couple surprises in it. I've been coming to Taber Cornfest for about 14 years. Owners have been coming for a lot longer than that, I believe. Come for the scare if you dare.
Organizers of the event told us what we can expect from Cornfest this year.
We have live entertainment all 3 days. We have free family, it's known as a free family event. So bouncy castles, the laughing loggers will be here. We have the midway, so there's wristband nights for that. And then we have stage entertainment showcasing our local artisans. So a farmer's market, there's just too many things to mention, but just check out our social media and yeah, there's updates all weekend long.
Local dignitaries were also on hand for the Cornfest opening ceremonies.
People can come out, they can taste the food, have a great time, listen to some great music, and enjoy the weather. We've got great weather here in Taber for sure. Southern Alberta's got the best weather.
People so much enjoy being out in their community, seeing their friends, because they missed that. It disappeared for a while. So you see that enthusiasm out there amongst the people. They enjoy being part of their community.
For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
Taber Cornfest often takes place at the same time as Whoop Up Days, and this year was no exception. Joanne Sorensen, who is the chair for the Taber Cornfest, says it's worth the drive out to Taber, especially for those who don't want to have a hole burnt in their wallet.
The town of Taber and the Taber District Chamber of Commerce has been holding Cornfest for 48 years, and we pride ourselves on having a family-free event. So most of our activities, such as the MNP bull riding, Bullarama, the fireworks, the stage entertainment, everything that we have here is free for families to enjoy. So we have bouncy castles, we have a petting zoo. Just check out our social media. There's too many things for me to list off.
An August vegetable favorite, a municipality rival over who grows it the best, and a lesson on the history of Taber Cornfest. I had a chance to speak with Taber Mayor Andrew Prokop about all of the above. Take a look.
This is our one major event, very special event for the town of Taber for the year. And you know what, this has been going on since the mid-70s, so this is year 38, I believe. Started out way back as the Hootenanny Days, they call that, and they changed the name to sometime later to Cornfest, which seemed to fit the criteria much more beneficial all the way around.
Yeah, that sounds a lot more fitting than Hootenanny Days.
Well, Hootenanny, you know, that was kind of, at the time, I think it was just, you know, great summer party, which it still is, and it's got bigger and better every year, but it's the one and only free family festival to attend in Western Canada. So there's no charge to get into the actual grounds, etc. for attending the events, and many things are free within as well. Of course, there's some ticket requirements for midway, that sort of thing. And many vendors here for the purpose of selling corn, for one. You know, that's a big mainstay, and that's what this is all about. That's a major crop for the town of Taber and area, as well as many other crops in the area. So, but corn is definitely well known and world renowned as the #1 best sweet corn within the country. And we put that challenge out to anybody. Right now, I believe it's Cornwall, Ontario. There's another one. There's a challenge out right now.
Oh, really?
Between ourselves and the police chief in Cornwall, as well as our police chief here. So you might want to talk to our chief, Graham Abella, for some comments that way if you get a chance. It's kind of a fun thing, you know, but it's very true. I'm sure they're very proud of theirs. I've never tried their corn, but I'm sure it's very good, but very difficult to beat the #1 corn in Canada right here.
When it comes to reaching emissions targets, there is one former politician who says the UCP and the Trudeau government are very much in agreement. Drew Barnes, former independent MLA for Cypress Medicine Hat, says the bottom line is that the net zero plan is a bad plan that will cost thousands of Albertans their jobs. That interview is coming up after this break.